Let me move to one topic here also that I would like to get your take on, and this one has to do with the recent USS Canberra that's been commissioned in Australia. The way I look at it, Gerald, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way I look at it is basically the head of that country, the prime minister, the incompetent elbow, just turned over the sovereignty of Australia to the US command. Am I wrong in that assessment?
Well, yes and no. The United States controls a lot of the world, and the hegemony still exists. And these guys, that little Albanese, he's nothing little boy, a jerk of nothing. But who the one before him? Out of his mind, another little jerk. It's one jerk off in the country, as I was saying, all over the world. But you see, there's no way the United States is going to go to war against China. The United States hasn't won a war since World War II.
You're right.
And if China has more naval ships than America does, and China's not going to take it anymore. I'll never forget, China was nothing until Bill Clinton brought them into the World Trade Organization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you look at their GDP from like the 1970s, so they officially came in 2 weeks after 9/11 in September 2001, and their GDP shot up. They're not going to. It's a whole different country. The United States made China what it was. They gave them all the heavy industry and high-tech technology that they needed to get cheap labor so the Americans could make more money and the Europeans to get their stuff made by cheap labor over there so they could make more money. But now China got what it wants. So there's no way America is going to get in a war with China. No way. And if it does, it's the end of life on Earth. By the way, anyone interested in knowing the truth of the past and the future, I suggest you listen to John F. Kennedy's speech to the graduating students at American University in June of 1963. It's all about peace. And he says we should not hate the Soviet Union, they called it in those days.
At that time,
he said more of them died in World War II. They suffered more than anyone. He said over 20 million died. The numbers that I hear about 26 to 27 million. Kennedy says the land, farms, factories, houses was destroyed, the equivalent of Chicago East. And he said, like, these are fine people. He said, scientifically, culturally, he said, we shouldn't go to war with them. Because if we go to nuclear war, these are his words, against the Soviet Union, this is 1963, life on Earth will be destroyed. That's 63.
Wow.
Now, you got 60 years later, the advanced weaponry, it'll be wiped out. Then he goes on to say at the end of his talk, the United States of America will never go to war again. 5 months later, Jack, you're dead. 8 months after that, we're in the Vietnam War.
Wow. That was like sort of getting back at him for that speech. That's what the military-industrial complex was.
Exactly. And will they kill me and others? No, who knows? Yeah. But it's a crime syndicate in charge. They're murderers and thieves. Hey, I'm Goldman Sachs. I'm Citigroup. I'm Wells Fargo. I'm too big to fail. You're just a piece of scum. You could lose your house and lose your life. We could care less about you. They're thieves and they're murderers. What's your favorite war? The Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner Obama's wars?
Yeah.
I want that guy Assad out of there. I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. Hey, how about that troop surge in Afghanistan who sold himself as a peace president? They went one after another. Bush, how come they're not bringing him up on charges for lying us into the Iraq war? They're murderers and thieves. So anybody that expects the Bloods and the Crips to go straight, man, you either been drinking too much or you're drugged out.
You're right. Yeah. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now with Ukraine, because it defies logic for how we, the collective West, of course, headed by the US, promised to never expend eastward to Russia's doorstep after the fall of the Soviet Union. And yet we went back on our word. We didn't hold our end of the bargain for that.
Why should it look? You go to America's track record of holding its end to the bargain.
Yeah.
How about I'm going to get the Trends Journal here, because we wrote about this as it happened. The overthrow of where it is, the overthrow of Viktor Yanukovych.
Yeah.
And by the Americans, Victoria Nuland, who they just escalated. And I'm sorry, what were you saying? I lost track.
I was just saying, Gerald, the idea of how we went back on our word that, we promised. I mean, the former Secretary of State, James Baker, stated that we will not expand eastward 1 inch.
That's right.
And yet we went back on our
There
word.
There were 16 NATO countries back then. Now there were 31.
Right.
Almost double.
Right.
And again, if Russia was up in Canada with missiles aimed at us, and China was down in Mexico with missiles aimed at us, America would love that. And when America could go and the NATO could go all through the Black Sea near Russia, but could you imagine if the Chinese and the Russians were down in the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of New York and off the coast of California, doing maneuvers? No, we wrote about it in detail, how the United States, here it is, how the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych. Washington is driving the world to the final war. World hegemony is not a fight America has earned. And that's by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. And there's a picture of Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And here's the cover of your Trends Journal. This is 2014. The people have no idea of the facts about the overthrow. They never heard of a Minsk agreement. They couldn't find Ukraine on the map.
Yeah.
But people march off to war. They march off to the COVID war. They believe a guy like little Georgie Bush, we're going to get Osama bin Laden dead or alive. America's longest war in Afghanistan. It's been going on for centuries. People always follow.